Hey guys, we're going to take a look at the Dracula Lives title from Marvel Monster Magazine. This ran from 1973 to 1975, ran a total of 13 issues plus one annual. Now, this number one here, cover is by Boris Vallejo. Interior are Gene Colan, Tom Palmer, Alan Weiss, Dick Giordano, uh, Tony DiPreta in a reprint, Bill LaCava in a reprint, Russ Heath in a reprint, also Rich Buckler and Pablo Marcos. Now, I remember when I bought this, it was actually at the Monster Bash up near Pittsburgh in 2001. And the guy just had $10 on it. It was a dealer from like upstate New York, and I dropped several $100 with that guy, and I got boxes of Monster magazines. I got some great deals. And the copy of this that I had previously had a bad spine roll, and I gave $20 for it. That was, back around 1999 or 2000. So now they're a lot more expensive. These things are not cheap, especially in high grade. But they're really cool. And let me go into something really quick before I progress here. The Marvel Monster magazines, there were several titles, and they are great. They have mostly the comic book art, but they have some features in there on some movies like this, plus Dracula captured on film and so forth. With photos and text. And like I said, they're awesome. However, when Stan Lee wanted to saturate the monster magazine market in the early to mid 70s, especially in 75, I mean it hit its zenith in 75. It kind of choked off the offerings from other companies. It caused the demise of Skywald. They were already hard to find. And when the distributors found that the market was full. In other words, it could only sustain so many different titles. Then a lot of the lesser titles just disappeared. They weren't distributed to even be bought, like Atlas Seaboard and different ones. And now you had the stalwarts like Warren Publishing. They persevered because Jim Warren built an empire for monster magazines, and he sustained what he had right up till the bitter end in the early 80s when that whole pop culture phenomenon of the monster magazines kind of faded away. And another one that hung on, Eerie Publications, Myron Fass. Like I've said before, they were like the undead. You just couldn't kill them, man. But even they had to succumb in the early 80s when the market finally dropped out because of changing times. I think Star Wars was responsible for a lot of that. I know it came out in 77, but the residual effects of that, was felt throughout the pop culture zeitgeist. On TV you had Battlestar Galactica, you had all the Star Wars ripoffs like Star Crash and all that stuff. So everything kind of switched to science fiction, and then right around 1980 there you had all the slasher stuff coming in, and that kind of changed horror. So the gothic horror was on its way out. All these things go in cycles, and we saw the demise of monster magazines. Anyway, I don't want to go on too long about that. That's just kind of the history of monster magazines in a nutshell, but or the end of them anyway. I already did a video on Creepy and kind of went over that again about how it began. But this number one here is considered classic by a lot of people. And it's one that a lot of collectors want. Okay, number 2. This is the second issue. This cover is by Jordi Penalva. Interior art by Neil Adams. Joe Sennett on a reprint. Jim Starlin, Sid Shores, Fred Kaida on a reprint. Gene Colan and Dick Giordano. And for the most part, these Dracula Lives stories feature Dracula in the past, whereas in Tomb of Dracula, it was in the present for the 70s, you know. And there were some crossovers and stuff, you know. They played with time a little bit. It's comic books, so, you know, really great stuff. Now, this is a gorgeous cover by Neil Adams. I mean, this is another one that just screams gothic horror, man. You know, you got the damsel in distress there in Dracula's arms. He's poised on an old Gothic building there, castle, and got a gargoyle there. And I mean, it's just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. I can't say enough about how great Neil Adams was. And this is number 3. A lot of these weren't marked on the front. You have to check the indicia to get the issue number. But interior art, John Buscema. And yes, I still say it Buscema. I always have. Probably always will. I know a lot of people say Buscema, and that might be correct. But I'm going to say Buscema, because I always have, and I'm stubborn that way. Okay, and also Sid Shores, Larry Warame in a reprint. Alan Weiss, the Krusty Bunkers, which was the guys that worked with Neil Adams. They did things in his style, you know. And I think Alan Weiss was part of that group, as well as some others. C.A. Winter in a reprint, and Alfonso Font. Those Adams covers are some of the best of these Marvel magazines. There's number 4, cover by Earl Norham. Interior art, Rich Buckler, Pablo Marcos, Mike Plug of Werewolf by Night and Man-Thing fame, as well as Monster Frankenstein in the regular comics. Ernie Chan as Ernie Chua. They got his name wrong for a long time there. He was called Ernie Chua, but his real name was Chan. Joe Manili in a reprint. Dick Ayers, Tony Mortellaro in a reprint. Vincente Alcazar. Okay, there's number 5. This cover is by Luis Dominguez. And a darn fun one it is, too. Interior art, Gene Colan, Dick Giordano, Frank Springer, Pablo Marcos, Sid Green in a reprint, and Val Mayerick. I always like Val Mayerick's stuff, you know. He adopted a style very akin to Bernie Wrightson. You could tell Wrightson was a big influence on him. And he did some good stuff. And here is number 6. This cover is by Luis Dominguez. Another really nice one there. Interior art, Gene Colan, Ernie Chan as Ernie Chua. Mac Pakula in a reprint. John Buscema, Pablo Marcos, and Dick Giordano. I'd like to show the insides of these, but this video would go on ad infinitum. And there's number 7. This cover is by Luis Dominguez. Interior art, Vincente Alcazar. Ernie Chan as Ernie Chua. George Evans, Dick Giordano. And looks like they got some coverage of Christopher Lee down there. He was huge as Dracula back in the 70s, of course. Hammer. Number 8. Cover by Luis Dominguez. Yeah, he did some great stuff, man. Interior art, Pablo Marcos, Tony DeZuniga, Gene Colan, Ernie Chan as Ernie Chua, Dick Giordano. Number 9, cover by Luis Dominguez. Interior art, Ernie Chan as Ernie Chua, Frank Robbins, Frank Springer, Paul Gulacy, Mike Esposito, Alfredo Alcala, Sonny Trinidad. Number 10, cover by Luis Dominguez. Interior art, Don Mates, Duffy Voland, Tony DeZuniga, Dick Giordano, Bob Brown, Krusty Bunkers. It's Neil Adams' group. Win Mortimer. Number 11, cover by Steve Fabian. Interior art, Bob Hall, Tony DeZuniga, Win Mortimer, Dick Giordano, Bob Brown, Frank Chiramonte, Pablo Marcos. Number 12, cover by Ken Bald. Interior art, Sonny Trinidad, Young Montano, Steve Gahn, Tom Sutton. Love Tom Sutton stuff. Number 13, cover by Earl Norham. Interiors, Tony DeZuniga, George Tuska, Virgilio Redondo. He's probably related to Nestor Redondo. Tom Sutton, Russ Heath, Steve Gahn. That's a pretty sweet cover there. And we have the annual. There was only one annual. Big, thick, square-bound book. And it's all reprints. Cover by Gray Morrow. It's pretty gorgeous. Interior art, Ernie Chan as Ernie Chua, Neil Adams, John Buscema, Sid Shores, Vicente Alcazar, Alan Weiss, the Krusty Bunkers, Frank Springer, John Buscema, and Pablo Marcos. All right, that about does it for Dracula Lives. These Marvel Monster Mags, as great as they were, didn't last too long because, like I said, they saturated the market and put most of the companies doing monster magazines off the stands, including themselves, pretty much. They could, they gave Warren a run for a little while there, but Warren had the staying power, and so did the the eerie pubs that you couldn't shoot in the head and kill. I want to thank my Aurora Dracula and my Marvel Dracula, encased in the Marvel Legends box there, for their assistance on this video. See you next time with some more Marvel Monster magazines. I'm out.